Live from inside Porsche, Colorado Springs, it's the First Dibs podcast with our hosts, John Deisty and Justin Underwood. Buckle up and let's go for a ride.
I love it.
Oh, isn't that good? Wow. Yeah. So, Fred, that one's for you.
Thank you.
That is the King of the Hill theme song from the cartoon done by the guys that did, I think, Beavis and Butthead. Yep. So I thought that kind of worked.
That's appropriate.
I think that's very appropriate. So welcome back, Fred Veach and Andrew Olson, and all of our watchers and listeners. It's First Dibs podcast, live on tape and in person from the pre-owned showroom at Porsche, Colorado Springs.
That's right.
I think we should skip business this week because I'm businessed out.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I would much rather do this show than continue business for
Except that there's one car I want to talk about. 2004 Volvo S60R with a manual transmission and 92,000 miles.
All right, that was it. So
it's a one-owner car, and we've got tons of service records on it. And I might call First Dibs on it. So
Does it have a map to IKEA?
yes, yeah, and it actually has a new inbox DVD owner's manual. Never opened, never watched. Pretty cool.
So you know that the previous owner didn't know how to use anything.
Exactly.
Or it speaks to Swedish electronics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that could be. IKEA never came out with a DVD player.
What color combo is it, John?
It is the worst. It is my last choice. It's silver on Gobi, like the Gobi Desert. The right one is Atacama, which is also kind of a desert.
Right.
But that's like the baseball glove orange.
Right.
Gobi is like just tan.
Sand.
Yeah.
So
So
It's a cool car.
cool.
yeah, it's a way cool car.
Yeah.
So anyway,
We're getting, this is like our official kickoff to the Pikes Peak hill climb season.
Yeah.
And then, so Fred, you helped us with it last year. I've anxiously been awaiting this show. I'm really looking forward to talking to Fred and Andrew about the program that they have going on.
Yep. So for those of you that don't know either of these guys, Fred has run the hill, I think 7 times, something like that, in a 996 turbo. Andrew helped support that car, I think, in the last 2 years that it ran.
Yep.
And then now Andrew is helping with some driver ride-alongs for kind of the Pikes Peak VIP people that need to experience it, so they keep funneling money into the program.
Pretty much.
So, so yeah. Welcome, guys. Where do you want to start?
I don't know.
You don't know? Let's start with maybe a little history of the Pikes Peak hill climb.
Yeah, let's go in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
So Pikes Peak hill climb, and then Fred, and then you're in if we can include into that your racing and how you got involved.
Well, let me look. Okay, way back. The mountain, the road was built by Spencer Penrose, and what I find amazing, he did it privately with his own money. And started in 1914. In 1916, it was completed, and he was building the Broadmoor Hotel. So he decided a great way to publicize the hotel and adventure in the West would be have a race up Pikes Peak. And so it's run every year since then, except for during the World Wars. And so it's the second oldest continuous race in the United States behind the Indy 500. And it's gone through good times and bad times, as you would suspect, but it's in very strong hands today and doing very well. And again, to me, one of the stories is how do you get on national ground and privately build a road and do it for 30 years? I guess he had a 30-year lease that finally expired, and today it's an interesting process. It's on Forest Service, but it's the road itself is run by the City of Colorado Springs Parks Department, and they have a whole division that handles the mountain itself. But so it's we're heading into the 102nd running of it this year. We have 70 cars entered. We typically get about 125, 130 applications for entry. We winnow that down to 70. We've already had some crashes and some pullouts. So I think as of this morning, we had 63 cars that we now have.
Okay.
And I'm teasing everybody that if we keep crashing, we'll get it down to 55. We had 2 non-required early practice weekends. The first weekend is Saturday, Sunday, and it's on a first-come, first-served basis to sign up, where the mountain was divided in halves for practice. Then last weekend, it was divided into thirds, which is how we run the hill. And Monday, we have tech for all the cars. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have qualifying. And we have the 70 cars. We have 6 classes, so the cars are kind of evened out into numbers. So we've got 20-plus people in a section at a time. And whenever you're on the lower section, it's when you qualify. So some people will be qualifying Tuesday, some Wednesday, some Thursday. Race day, the field, we have exhibition cars, and those run first. And they run kind of to get them not out of the way, but while it's still cool and track conditions are cold. And then when we get into the real field, we run fastest to slowest. And hopefully we get out of there at a reasonable hour.
Sure.
But, you never know.
Right.
In terms of my doing it, I joined the board because of the history of the race, and I was concerned about how the race was doing. And the Sierra Club had sued the city when it was dirt for runoff. City fought it and lost, and so the city had to pave the road. And for several years, the race itself was sort of in danger because nobody was really building a car that was really suited for dirt and for asphalt. So in 2012, it was paved. And I one night said to my wife, if I get sponsorship, I've always thought that would be cool to do. And she said, sure, honey, knowing full well that wasn't going to ever happen. So that was easy for her. But I sat down with Joe and Don here at the dealership, and I said, it's paved. It'd be kind of cool to do. And instead of saying, get out of our office, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard anybody say. They said, oh, what a great idea. Let's find a car.
Right.
And I had such a good time the first year. And we ran it totally stock. I had radio, air conditioning, heater worked. Heater was great, by the way. Then the slippery slope started, and we said, let's take a perfectly good street car, spend tons of money, and turn it into a race car. And that went for 7 different times. Andrew was crew chief last couple of years. And the last time we ran, because we made the car rear-wheel drive, they actually put us in open, which was kind of ridiculous because open was, I think we had 14 or 15 cars, all 11 to 1,500 horsepower cars. And I think I'm running about 6.25, 630 at the time.
Wow.
And we qualified 7th, which I thought if we finished 7th and 9th, that'd probably be okay. We finished 3rd. It was a slippery course.
Right.
And we could get the power down. And when I got to the top and said, you're 3rd, I thought, I can't be 3rd. And frankly, it's how the Broncos win football games. The other guys just turned over, I guess, and let us win. But that was a cool way to do it. And in 14, we had won the production class and actually set a record that year.
Sure.
So we've run it in different classes. This dealership has always been incredibly supportive to myself and to everybody who competes on Pikes Peak. And now, as you guys know, we've got quite a field of really good drivers and really good cars entered with support of Porsche of Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
Which is very unique and special and good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And now there's outside dealerships that are wanting to partner up.
Yeah, there's another.
with us.
Is it a Texas Porsche dealership that's running a car? Don't say their name.
Is it a Texas store?
I thought they were from Texas.
There is a GT2
South Bend?
RS Club Sport.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he's a driver who has competed several years. He's running the Viper, and I feel very badly for him for that. He had a Porsche 996 one year and ran it. So he's been on the hill in a number of different vehicles, but he's in a GT2 RS Club Sport this year. And that's a great car for Pikes Peak.
Yeah,
I haven't been watching his times, but
all of our favorite guys have run in that or a variant of that.
Yeah.
So we got one right here.
Yeah.
If somebody needs another one, if your car's not holding up. So if somebody had a car entered and had to change cars, is it too late to do that? If their car isn't going to meet the deadline, are they out?
Well, it would go before the competition committee, and there are 8 people on that would look at it. We have a really good technical guy and great technical backup, and then Randy Rule puts on the race for us. And so they would start. but then it would go to the committee, and as long as the car was well prepared and ready to go, we could probably do that. We charge $1,000 because we really want to discourage that.
Sure.
And we certainly don't want to ever have it as gamesmanship. You know, we don't want somebody holding back on something and at the last minute saying, oh, by the way, I'm bringing a supercar and I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
But if it's a legitimate breakdown and they've got a substitute car, which we had somebody that had been building a car and as recently as 3 weeks ago couldn't get the car built in time, suggested 2 cars that we did not accept because we didn't think the cars would be competitive.
Sure.
And was able to come up with a competitive car. And so we accepted him to do that. You know, our intent's not to keep people from
I
doing
think
it.
he's
It's to
my
make it
fault.
sound-
I think just like Lieberman, that guy might be my fault.
Yeah.
So,
I know who you're talking
yeah.
about.
Is he driving a 911 Cup now?
No, but that may be your fault anyway. I know who you're talking
Yeah, that
about.
guy's definitely my fault. So, and, yeah.
He's not using my garage, I can tell you that.
All right, fair enough. But I think that's kind of a fun rundown.
Yeah, you touched on something just for a second. The tech, going through tech inspection on Monday, and I thought about, I mean, tech inspection for a Porsche Club track day event involves, you know, people looking at brake pads and tires and making sure that you had your brake fluid flushed. Tech inspection for a race car like this,
Very different. Very,
extremely
very
different.
thorough.
Who is qualified to check these cars out, and what are they checking?
Well, they're checking everything. We have, you know, the guys today are holding computers and checking things, but they go through about 7 or 8 different places, and it's as simple as looking at the driver's suit, making sure that it's compliant, that the helmets are compliant, that the belts are compliant. And I've got an interesting story on belts, by the way. We had a guy show up one time, and you know they put data manufacturer. He was able to go into the future and get belts that hadn't been built for 6 months into the future. Obviously, the $75 on Amazon was not a good buy on belts. But we look at the roll cage. There are specifications for the diameter, for the type of metal.
Okay.
The cars are weighed to see that the roll cage is compliant within that weight. We look at the gussets. We look at the welding, and cars have been rejected.
Sure.
We've had cars saying, no, this does not pass tech. The Evo that went off, that car failed tech.
Oh, wow.
And we sent him to a good local shop that re-welded his roll cage.
Okay.
And had we not done that,
Yes.
I think he very easily could have had severe injuries. He's very lucky to have survived that crash.
Yeah.
But we take this, we take the safety aspect very, very seriously, and we have higher standards for Pikes Peak than you have for other racing series. Our roll cage criteria, for example, is more stout than PCA requires for racing, or POC requires, or those kind of things. And we stand by that because this subjects the car and the driver to potentially some incredible stress. And we want to make sure that we try to make it as safe as we can.
For sure.
Yeah, it seems like on a racetrack, if you hit a wall, you know, maybe that's 2 impacts.
Yeah.
But if you're tumbling like that Evo did down a mountain, I mean, what did they, 7, 8 rolls, something like that?
And phenomenally lucky they came through that. You know, we like to say there are no good places to go off, and some really bad places. And if you've been on the mountain, you'll see that. I think what happens for most people is they don't recognize so much going up, but when they're coming back down, then all of a sudden it becomes very, very apparent why you want to be able to hit your marks and do it right. And that gets to the acceptance of drivers. We're looking for people with current experience, that have racing experience or rally experience, but not just time trialing, because time trialing, you're doing the same repetitive lap time after time after time. You're doing lead follows often, or you can see somebody else and pick up what they're doing. We want to know what people can do when they are found themselves offline, because there are times that you'll go into a corner and it might have been dry night in Colorado Springs and there's gravel. And, you know, what do you do at that moment? And so I think it was Paul Dallenbach who years ago said, racing teaches car control. Pikes Peak lets you show what you've learned racing.
Okay.
And I think that's, if he actually said that, that's a great quote. We'll let it, I'll give him credit for it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And yeah, not to take away from you, John, but headed in a direction. I'm super curious about the program that Fred and Andrew
Agreed.
because I did not know that this existed until this year. And finally, it made sense why Andrew was always looking for a loaner car to borrow.
Well,
you know,
and a chance to catch up on sleep.
right.
We started this a couple years ago, informally, and it was sort of a trial initially because it's not. I mean, there's some questions over whether it ought to be done or not. The decision was to allow me to take some very important community leaders and some of our key sponsors and give them a little sense of what the mountain is like. And so the first weekend we ran on the lower section because that was the shortest time of the runs. And then the second weekend we ran at the middle because there were fewer drivers practicing in the middle, and that's the shortest section of timed area. And we had people like the head of the Forest Service, and our relationship with them is critically important. Sure. We had the head of the park department. They run the mountain. We had the city manager take a ride, people like that. We had the lady who's in charge of competition for Yokohama. We had her son go up. And so I have a 2016 GT3 RS. We put people in race suits, race equipment, but in a street car. And I drove 7/10.
Yeah, I would say that's probably
except for when I slid with Orlando. And you know, the goal wasn't to scare people, but to give them a sense, and also to let them talk to team members about why the race is so important. Attend the drivers' meeting where they get a briefing every day on what road conditions are like, and go through the safety protocol and procedures that we have, and give them kind of an insider's view of it. We had a very nice young lady from Channel 21 go up with us, and we had media people from the Gazette go up with us. So it's a combination of media. The city or the manager for the airport, who's a customer from Porsche Colorado Springs, he did a ride along. I think he's pretty excited to upgrade his 911 now.
Yes.
And so yeah, and Andrew is the perfect person to help because he's an incredible representative for you guys. You know, his years as being a service tech as well as now being a service underwriter, he really understands the product. He has a passion for the product. He's incredibly good about explaining things to people. And so he had everybody suited up. We had about 5 or 6 different sizes of driver suits and different helmets, and they're all current. And so we just did rinse and repeat, and we could get 8 or 9 runs a day in the middle section.
Wow.
So it was I got a 1-star Uber rating. So it was gone, and I burned up a set of tires.
Yeah.
My car was in the following Monday for new.
Yes.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. Is there a name? Have you given this program a name that you're?
Yeah, how about making a poor decision on the spot or something?
Sure.
No, we really don't. It's just a ride-along program. And the office, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb office, we have a staff of 5 people. We have 2 marketing-oriented people. They really sat down with our CEO, and they came up with a wish list of, you know, prioritization of who should go in the first round of invites, and then if those weren't filled, to reach out to additional people. And for example, we were able to give a couple rides to a couple of the mountain staff that work snow plowing, and because they work all night to get the course set for us, and it helps them to recognize what their efforts are for. And you guys know, if you've never been in a fast streetcar going fast, it's sort of an experience. It's
For sure.
a couple years ago, we had the sports guy for KRDO, and on his film, he was screaming, yelling, had his eyes closed, almost crying. And we were teasing him when he was done that this is a lot more fun than those stick and ball games that he thought men did. You know, so it gives people an experience that they otherwise wouldn't have.
Sure. No, absolutely. And then so Andrew, you're meeting people, picking up, and so I mean, you've usually got like a 4 to 7 passenger vehicle, and so what I take it is you're meeting everybody and you take them up to a certain point on the mountain.
Yeah, that's basically, so whether usually the first weekend we'll run like the lower section, and then second weekend you'll usually run like the middle section, which Glen Cove is a really exciting place for that. But just kind of giving them insight as to what we do and what the mountain's like, how practice runs, how race day runs and stuff like that, just so they're informed and they know exactly what's going on.
So you're doing like the education tour, up to the start line, if you will.
Yep.
And then, are you giving them rides back to your, off of the mountain, after the
So
experience?
we pretty much meet at the gate, and
Okay.
we'll kind of do like a quick kind of briefing, just kind of prep them for what the morning looks like. And then they all get in the loaner car that I take, and we head up there and stop at whatever location and kind of just give them a rundown and let them know how everything's going to work that morning.
We walk the pits because we've got usually about 30 minutes before the driver meeting. So we can kind of walk the pits, watch people unload. People who aren't around racing have a lot of good questions about what are they doing, why are they doing it, how come this car looks this way and that car looks that way, and try to explain just, basic stuff.
Yep.
And then they go to the driver's meeting and they see what the drivers hear in terms of prep for the day. And then at that time, it's time to suit up. And Andrew can, again, probably give a better sense of how people feel when they get out because, again, I'm churning and burning. He's taking one out and throwing another one in.
Right.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone get out of the car and not smile. Yeah, they smile for at least 25, 30 minutes after,
Right.
and then they talk about it the entire way back down.
I was going to say, the conversation on the way down has to be vastly different than the conversation on the way up.
Yeah, it's just like whenever they come down, it's always like an instant appreciation for everything. They're like, wow, this is absolutely insane that people do this. And, especially when you come down in the morning, you can actually see everything because it's, 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Sure.
They're like, I can't believe people do this. And they do it as fast as they can.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting up to practice, I think, is something that anybody that's interested in the race should try to do. I think there's limited practice day tickets that are available. And to be able to be up there and see, you're driving up in the pitch black, and then all of a sudden the sun is rising over Colorado Springs, and then the wind comes and kind of chills everything down, and then all of a sudden it starts to get nicer, and it's really a different experience than the race day stuff, which is equally awesome, but it's a different thing. It's a little more intimate. You can kind of get up more on the cars, and you're seeing them take off a few times, so maybe it feels almost a little more casual too.
I think that's true, and I think the drivers are more relaxed, the crews are more relaxed. I think they're certainly willing to answer questions and do that sort of thing because there's less pressure on them. And my experience is everybody that shares that mountain thinks it's such a wonderful experience that they're happy to share what they're doing. I talked to Catherine Legg, who's an IndyCar driver, very decorated driver in Europe, and she was excited. She said, everybody's talked about this for years and said, once I do it, I'm going to come back year after year. And after that practice session, I said, so what do you think? She said, I can see how you get hooked on this. She said, this is so cool. And so when you get world caliber drivers who, and again, what's unusual about Pikes Peak is you have world caliber drivers. We have the Stig running this year. We have Romain Dumas running. We have Catherine running. We've got world-class drivers, and yet local drivers can actually compete and compete head-to-head with them. Yep. Where else is that done in sport?
Right.
I don't know anything else that is like Pikes Peak.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point because our friends with Shift magazine.
Yeah.
We've got in the race, you've got Romain Dumas and David Donahue and Reese Millen up against like a father-son team.
Yeah, I got to hang out with those guys at breakfast the morning after practice, and it's just it's such a grassroots thing.
Well, and beyond the fact it's father-son, they're both good people and really good drivers, but their house burnt down in the fire, and so they lost their race cars. Their cars burnt down. So it's a comeback story, and personal and all that. The Aedo family is wonderful, and they can drive. I mean, it's I wouldn't count them out. I mean, that's what's kind of cool about Pikes Peak is crud. If I can win, anybody can win. So I mean,
well, it is also the cars and as far as the rules regulations go with the cars. I think I've kind of heard this before, where it's a race that almost somewhat encourages not cheating in a way, but it's creativity. Right.
We have rules, and the safety rules are sanctisect and can't be changed. But within the classes, things that aren't allowed elsewhere are allowed. We're open on fuel. And every other series has a BOP or has this and that. We don't. And so, in theory, if you could run your car up to the hill on nitrous and not blow it up, you could do that.
Right.
Now, we want safety within what people are running. But otherwise, now we've had inquiries, and we think next year we'll have hydrogen-powered race cars.
Wow.
We had the first electric car on Pikes Peak in 1981. So we encourage technology. And because of that, like Ford is up there this year with a van, a 150 van, they call it.
Right.
I don't know if any part on that is available on a 150. Two chassis, 1,400 horsepower van or truck that Romain Dumont is going to drive. And it's been blindingly fast in practice, blindingly fast. And so, we're actually going to see that.
Right.
It's unique that way. The one thing I did want to talk about is that we've got a GT4 class this year.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, GT4 cars are worldwide covered under a group called SRO. They set up the standards for racing worldwide. And the idea behind that is a SRO GT4 car that competes in Europe or competes in Japan or the Orient could compete in the United States. It's to level the playing field and allow the manufacturers like Porsche to produce those kind of cars. So Porsche produces the GT4 RS. That is a GT4 SOR car. This is our first year to have that class, and we've got 3 manufacturers represented, Ford, Toyota, and Porsche. And we're going to separate it turbo and non-turbo so that the turbo cars don't have an inherent advantage. And it's being overseen by SRO. They had technical people out the first 2 weekends on the car getting data and trying to do it. And everybody understands this is a learning year for us to try to figure out how to do it. But that's going to open up worldwide people to come to Pikes Peak. And there are like 13 manufacturers making GT4 cars. That Alpine last year was a GT4 car.
Right.
And so I think it's going to add a whole new dimension to Pikes Peak and allow people that run Le Mans or run other events around the world to say, I want to do Pikes Peak, and my car will be eligible as it runs and not have to do major changes to the car.
Yeah.
So,
That seems cool to me. Like, I love, like the guys we were talking about with these home-built cars, but there's, a ton of effort that has to go into probably building that and preparing it. Whereas if you can go to a manufacturer and just buy one off the shelf that's, I'm sure there's tweaks you're going to do to it, but it's basically
ready to
built
go.
And it's got a cage in it and it's, rolling off the showroom floor and you can take it. It probably opens the door to a lot more.
And I think
more
it
people.
opens the door, and a lot of drivers, as we go around and race other series and do other things, people are really interested in Pikes Peak. But the problem is if you have a GT4 car, you don't want to do a lot of changes to the car just for Pikes Peak. It doesn't make a lot of sense. This is going to allow you to do exactly that, John. You're going to be able to take your car that you've run the previous weekend at Watkins Glen, put it on a trailer, bring it to Pikes Peak. Yep. And Yokohama is sponsoring that class with a spec tire. So everybody is going to basically go into this with an even chance. So it's going to really emphasize drivers' capabilities and their abilities to do things. And I think it's going to really open, we'll see, but I hope and I think it's going to really open up the door to a real growth potential, at least in that area.
The Yokohama relationship has been so fun.
Yeah.
Like to be part of.
They're great people.
That's such a great, great group to be involved with. Was our friend Fardad?
Yep.
You think we'll get him on the show this year?
I don't know if he'll be here. I hope he is.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But he made kind of a spot appearance last year.
Oh, yeah, he was here
just
last year. He just
walked through.
walked by. Dang
Yeah.
it.
No, they've been great. And the other thing that I think is unique about Pikes Peak, and I'm going to keep doing my advertorial, is in other series, nobody plays well together. If Pirelli's sponsoring the Cup, it's a Pirelli Cup race. If Michelin's sponsoring, it's a Michelin race. Because Pikes Peak unique, we have Pirelli on the mountain, and they're doing the VIP. We have Toyo on, and they're doing, and we have Yokohama. And they all three have agreed to get along and to share the market because of the race.
Sure.
And that's unusual in itself. You wouldn't have 3 manufacturers cooperating for the good of the race. And I think that people appreciate how unique the race is and the fact that this is a bit different. And so to me, that's kind of cool.
Right. I mean, okay, so also the program that you and Andrew are doing is to raise awareness locally.
Absolutely.
Because I've heard time and time again, more people outside the United States are aware of Pikes Peak Hill Climb than people that...
We had over 1 million people watch the live stream, and we track all of that worldwide. We have a program called Meltwater, and Meltwater picks up worldwide every article, every stream, everything that's done, and measures it for advertising ROI. it's incredible. The European coverage and the Oriental coverage is huge. The journalists that come, all of that. It's almost in Colorado Springs where somebody says, "Is there something going on this weekend?" I saw some cars.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is.
Right.
But we have not done a very good job, obviously, in getting the word out, because it's just the further you get away from Colorado Springs, the more important the race is.
Right.
And in Porsche language, Atlanta's very aware of what's going on at Pikes Peak, who's driving, what cars are entering, all of that. You know, you probably go to a dealership in Denver and they go, "Huh?
Right.
Something happening?" And so that's another reason you guys are so unique in the sport, and we so appreciate the support you give the customers.
I think so. John and I, we did a mobile podcast last year.
God, that was our best work.
The first person,
I'm serious.
The first person, I'm not kidding, that we stopped to talk to was from Hong Kong.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. He
Yeah.
came here for the Pikes Peak Hill Climb race. And was because he'd heard about it, never been to it, and was blown away by everything that was happening.
Well, and we have 2 VIP groups. One of the things we started last year as a pilot program is a VIP experience. And the first year we had 4 or 5 people. This year we've got like 17 in 2 groups. And yet they're coming. They're going to stay at the Broadmoor. I'm going to take them up in a 14-passenger van, and I will behave. I will not be sliding the van. I can promise you that. But to give them again an insider's view, and they'll be at the start line, and then they're going to get taken down and get on the tram and be at the finish and be able to meet some drivers when they finish.
Awesome.
And again, all of this is being done for exposure, because the kind of people that are going to fly here and spend 4 or 5 days on this race are the same people that can come back as sponsors of their business or other things and help grow this race.
Yeah.
And that's our goal, is to continue to grow this race, get a better field every year, get better cars, better drivers, and get more and more coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, the being able to, you mentioned the live stream. I've watched that a couple times. I think it's great. And I want to say the person doing the live stream that I was watching, I'm pretty sure he was over in the UK somewhere, you know, like in his basement.
We're taking that over this year.
Okay.
That's a major change. And it's Mobile One's been a tremendous sponsor and been great for motorsport, period. But as you know, as the pie gets divided, the marketing people get a certain amount and this and that, and by the time it gets to production, that's what happens. And this year on the production, we're going to have far more local control, and people have been working on that local control and local stories. For example, UC Health is one of our partners. And the cool thing about that is we have trauma docs on the hill every day during practice. I don't know another race that has a trauma doc during practice.
Right.
There. But for driver safety and response, it's important. We had a crash during practice this weekend, and our safety truck was there in 1 minute and 43 seconds.
Wow.
That's world-class response.
Right.
And then the trauma doc was immediately following up. And from a driver's perspective, if you're in a crash, nothing's better than to have somebody who's a trauma doc check you in real time and then get you in an ambulance. And if you do need care, they can call ahead to the hospital and either get you out by helicopter quickly or get you by ambulance. And by the time you're there, you already have the program and the protocol set up for care. And that's critically important for safety. So, you know, and so they're tremendous partners. And these kind of partnerships, I took the head doctor for UC Health, David Steinbrenner, great guy. And we got to talk Porsches to David. I think he's going to be a customer because after the ride, he was a believer.
Right.
And Matt Angelitis is our trauma doc and who heads that program. And Matt's looking at Porsches right now. So, you know, it's a secondary benefit to your marketing. We're out trying to sell the brand at the same time.
Yeah. Fred sells at least a dozen cars a year.
Oh, yeah.
Us.
Yeah. Yep.
Does a good job. No, that's amazing. That's super cool. That's neat to know about the trauma docs at practice, because you're right. I wouldn't have thought of that. Ambulance, you know, somebody's got to be there.
Well, we have an EMR, and we have helicopters on standby. And race day, we have a dedicated helicopter that's there, and with another one to back them up. But you know, just having that during practice, the chances that you're going to need them aren't there. But if you do, we had somebody get very, very ill on top the first weekend. It's somebody with a team coming up from sea level, probably doing everything wrong. We tell people, cut back your drinking, drink a lot of water, get rested. He probably said, no, those are not good ideas. But the only way to get him is get off the mountain. Well, again, our doctor was able to get to him in real time, find out, get him down, and get him taken care of.
Yeah.
So,
the program that you guys are running, is it something, I mean, how would just a normal person, would a normal person be able to inquire about how would they potentially be invited, or how could they apply to be able to go for a ride with you up the mountain?
We're not opening it up to the public. It's a very fair question. We're concerned about the liability.
Sure.
I get a little lecture from everybody before I do this every year. Not to be wild, not to be crazy. We did beat a couple cars, though, even with passengers.
Right.
We weren't the slowest.
Still competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can only slow down so much.
Yes.
It's really bad for the car to go slow. But no, I think we're limited. Again, we're very limited in time. And the one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to interfere with the practice time for the competitors. That's why it's important that we hustle up there, because if we're dawdling, we're costing them time, and we don't want to do that.
Sure.
It's important they get as much time on the hill as they possibly can. And in fact, 2 times during our practices, we were pulled because we were running out of time, and there were competitors who needed to practice.
Sure.
So we are clearly secondary to their effort.
Sure.
That's the problem. As we talked before we started tonight, now there is a way to privately rent the mountain, but you have to have safety protocol, ambulances,
Right.
tow cars, people to cover it. It's probably a $15,000 to $20,000 ask, and it would be from 5:30 to 8 in the morning, and that's a lot of money to pay to get on the hill if you're not serious about some reason to do it.
Right. Yeah. And Fred, you were super instrumental in allowing tours, in a sense, to go up Pikes Peak. Is that still, so you were kind enough to host our friends from Kansas City?
We have a new program with the
Right.
mountain, because car clubs want to go up there all the time.
Right.
The difficulty we've had is, and the Porsche guys we know are always well behaved. So let's pick on those Corvette guys. You can't trust 6 Corvette owners or 60 Corvette owners to behave.
Right.
And the mountain doesn't want people, during the day, the speed limits are 25 miles an hour, and they mean it. And they will arrest you. They will throw you off. They will put you in jail if it's egregious enough. So we have a program with the mountain that if a sports car group wants to, we can give them a lead follow driver, give them the history of the race. Again, it's a chance to tell the story to more people, and to do that. And so that's a side program that we have worked out with the mountain itself.
Okay.
And several groups take advantage of it during the year. I think Audi did last year. I know Mustang Club did. And we remain open to continue those kind of partnerships, because they're a win-win.
Right.
We want to respect the mountain, want to respect the staff, the rangers, all of that.
Yeah.
But you can see from 16 Mile, or Devil's Playground, you can see about 80% of the course. So if you're cheating, which this next week guys will do,
Right.
they can see you. They just pull out on the overlap, and they can watch you cutting corners and doing all those stupid things.
Right.
And every year we get at least one call where the police have arrested somebody,
Oh, man.
and they're going to jail. And then the question is, how egregious was it? And we're going to throw them out of the race or not? And everybody every year thinks they're clever, and they're going to pull it off, and nobody's going to realize,
Right.
that the Subaru going 110 through the picnic ground is not a tourist.
Yeah, right.
And so,
Holy cow. I wouldn't have thought of that. People cutting off that kind of, that really happens.
drivers will do anything in their possible to figure out how to break the rules.
Sure.
That's the first thing you learn at driver's school is ignore the rules. We're going to do this.
Right. Yeah. I love was it last year? I love the video I can't remember the driver, but he rolled.
Yeah.
And then it landed and he just kept going.
That was incredible.
Yeah, I don't think I could have done that. I think I'd be cleaning out my pants and doing other things.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, that was at Engineers. Engineers is this first gear late apex corner at the end of a very fast section. And you better know it's Engineers. And every year somebody thinks it's something else. And that's a wrong time to decide that, because you're coming in there hot. I'm sure it varies car to car, but you're coming in probably from $120 to $150. And then it's down to first gear.
Right.
And, you know, braking strongly suggested. So if you do it poorly, they've cut a lot of the trees, but the cars are cutting the rest. And that's a corner where every year at least one guy in practice, does it. And it doesn't matter during the driver's meeting if you say, slow down at engineers. Driver's meetings where everybody looks at the guy next to him and says, that guy's a tool. You know, and it's never going to be me. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
How long did it take you to get comfortable with the course?
I had a home court advantage because we live here.
Yeah.
And I would go up at 7:30 in the morning when they open the road. And the guys in line at 7:30 are the fishermen. They're going up there to fish at the reservoirs. So I would go up and try to drive 7, 8 corners, come back, drive 7 or 8 corners, come back, see if I could remember them, add another 3 corners to it in process. But in terms of competition, I didn't feel comfortable until that 3rd year that we did well, that we won our class. Because so many of the corners look alike, and they're not. And there are several places there that you can lose tremendous amounts of time if you don't execute. And race day, the first 3 or 4 corners, you're always trying to figure out what your level of grip is. And it varies very much depending year to year. And you'd think it would be the same, but it's not. And so you've got to get all that stuff dialed in and do it. And it's, you know, it's a race. It's really you against the hill. Yes, there are other people in your class, but it's really more about overcoming your own fears and your own limitations and trying to execute thoughtfully and well and do it. And I tell people, if you think about it, 156 corners, a quarter of a second a corner, which is really nothing in terms of braking or exiting or anything else, is over 20 seconds of time.
Right.
So you just, you know, you're trying to make as few mistakes as you can.
Sure.
And I will tell you, when everybody finishes, what's kind of unique is everybody's there to get you out of the car and happy you finished and share with you that you've done it. But then every driver goes, God, I screwed up going through picnic ground, or I second leg of the W's, you know, I broke way too early and slowed way too much down, and that cost me here, or cost me. And in your own mind, you know where you haven't done it well, and you're beating yourself up.
Sure.
But at the same time, you're so excited you finished. I mean, I've been all 7 years I finished, but 3 of those years, at least 3 of the years, we had weather. You know, one year, Dave Petiti was my crew chief, and I thought Dave was trying to kill me because the weather's coming in, and he said, "How do you feel on the slicks?" And I said, "Yeah, it's your call, but I think I'm okay on the slicks." He said, "We're gonna have some rain in picnic ground, which is kind of on the bottom third." Well, it was raining hard at picnic ground. It was sleeting at Glen Cove, and it was snowing on the top. And when I finished, they shut the course down. I was the last cars to finish. Now, you could have gotten me timed in a sundial or a, you know, I mean, it's it wasn't a competitive time.
Sure.
But you know, you get 4 seasons in one run.
Right.
And so that's also just part of it.
Yeah.
If somebody goes hard off, it can take an hour to get the cleanup done.
Sure.
So if you don't qualify well after 11:30 or 12 any given day on Pikes Peak, you could have weather.
Right.
And you could have weather and then it gets nice again. One year we had to have a snowplow come and get us off, and David Donner was behind me in a cup car, and the guy ahead of me sliding sideways because of the crowd in the road, and I'm starting to slide. And Donner's sliding coming into me, and I'm thinking, if the guy ahead of me doesn't get it straightened out and get going, we're all going to hit each other like billiards and go off. And fortunately, we didn't. But that mile down is probably as scared as I've ever been in the car.
Wow!
Because the slicks, when it's cold and snowing, you think the pilot sports aren't good and cold. Try race tires. And that's all part of it. That's all part of the mystique. That's what makes it special.
Yeah. And it's a track. It's a court. There's no racing line. I've heard that because the road can change from day to day.
The road changes, particularly the upper third. You get in the permafrost situation, and it really has high bumps. And you'd think that if you're in tight to the mountain, the bumps would be less, but they move around. And so your line one day may not be your line 2 days later.
Sure.
So you've got to kind of be alert to that and figure it out. And then the other thing I'd say is it's all about momentum because you're going uphill.
Yeah, right.
And so you can have a perfect racing line, but if you give that up with it being bumpy or you can't keep the tires on the ground, who cares?
Right.
So you've got to be able to adjust and make that work. And when you come into what we call cog cut, and that's where the railroad comes closest to the road, the bumps going into cog cut are massive. And it, you know, if you late brake there, you will hit the railroad tracks, and people have and destroyed their cars.
Right.
And so that whole section is really mind over matter and executing and doing it right. And I don't know if you guys remember, but one year during practice, I shifted coming out of cog cut, which is really bumpy, from second to third, but I shifted in the air.
Oh,
and
wow.
when I landed, it blew my clutch apart.
It snapped all the rivets off the
Snapped
clutch.
all the rivets off the
Every
clutch.
single one of them.
And they've never seen that happen. And it was a new clutch.
Right.
So it was an expensive whoops. But note to self, don't ever shift in the air. You know, let the car land, knock your
Right.
fillings loose, and then shift.
Right. Yeah.
Really fun day.
Yeah. I do remember that.
And poor Andrew. I will tell you, while it's hard on the drivers because we're up at 2:33 every day, we're really having to focus on our driving. And then we've got to, you know, do whatever else we have to do. For the mechanics, they've got to prep the car for the following day, clean up any issues, do everything else. And in Andrew's case, or in Dave Petiti's case, come here and spend a day working. By Friday, everybody is just spent.
Oh, for sure.
Just spent. And so it's more like a 24-hour race in terms of wear and tear on the drivers and particularly the crew. I mean, the crew guys go through more than the drivers do. And drivers who don't acknowledge the difficulty to the crew are kidding themselves.
Sure.
Because it really is a teamwork effort.
Yeah.
As a driver, to know that the car is okay, to know that it's all taken care of. And Andrew's great at that. I mean, you know, the wheels are torqued, the tires have the right pressure. He's got timing slips. I mean, and everybody's different about what they want to do. But to have that relationship between the two of you is just critical. And I can't say enough good things about Andrew.
How'd you get roped into that?
I think that was Dave Petiti's responsibility. I think he got me sucked into it. But I was incredibly grateful because it was kind of one of those bucket list things that I never thought I'd be able to do. And it was an amazing experience the entire time. It was, you know, one of those things I'll remember for a long time.
Did they just throw you into it, or did Dave help mentor the first year?
There
or
was
it?
there was definitely some guidance, which was much needed because I had never done anything like that
Yeah.
before. It was kind of like drinking from a fire hose.
You guys know David's skills on personal relationships. Is that right? He doesn't have any. His thing to me, which really was helpful to me, was he wouldn't let me do anything. I'm used to kind of getting my car off the trailer, getting it started, torquing the wheels, doing all that. Dave's whole approach was you just have to worry about driving. You just think about the business of driving. I'm going to do everything else. And again, as a driver, that really takes the pressure off of you. It really allows you to focus, to concentrate, to think about that practice session. And then every day we'd have a discussion about what the goals were that day. You know, what are we trying to accomplish this day?
Sure.
And Jeff's word is great about this. You start slow and you want to try to build every run a little quicker, but not because you're trying to drive faster, but because you're feeling the car better and you're executing a little bit better.
Sure. Our music came back.
Did the
on.
music come back on? I thought I heard some smooth jazz.
Yeah.
That I was watching. There's a documentary about the Blue Angels
Okay.
on Amazon, and you know, I think normally pilots do their own pre-flight checks, but with the Blue Angels, they've got their crew chiefs that do everything. So they literally just get in, throttle up, and they're gone. And they were talking about how that was kind of an adjustment for them, but the level of trust that is between them and the crew chief about, you know, how everything is just right, and I know it's right, and I don't even have to think about it. How that just takes a load off, and now you can fly 12 inches away from somebody else's wing.
That's exactly the case. And every year I'm surprised at guys that show up and their car's not ready, and they're in the pits practice, jacking the car up, and somebody's under the car trying to do something. I would not want to get in a car and go attack Pikes Peak, realizing that somebody was just under my car doing something. I mentally couldn't or wouldn't be able to do that. And to have someone like Andrew that you have trust in, you know it, and you know he's protecting you.
Yeah.
And he's gonna do the right thing because he's vested too, it really creates a relationship. I mean, it sounds corny, but it really is true. And again, I would say this, I could not have done well had I not had the support from Andrew and from David and from the dealership.
That's awesome. I've worked side by side. When I was a technician, I had a couple tech friends. They went to racing. I think 3R Racing was the name of the company at the time. A couple of them went to. Some of them are still in it, and some of them have gotten back out, like into the dealer network or whatever later. But I remember talking to them after they were in racing for after the first year, maybe, and just asking them, what's the difference? And I remember one of them pretty specifically said, it's totally different, as in I'm not necessarily thinking about what my next paycheck is going to be. All of my focus is on, is the driver going to make it to the end of the race? Because like it's a very different mindset from the mechanic's perspective when you're just servicing a car, doing a 20K service, on a 911 versus sending a man, up the hill that there is potential big damage, right?
Oh, big damage. So, I mean, and again, they are vested. I mean, they are you. They're an extension of you. Petiti, the first year, was assigned to me, and one of the first luncheons I had with Dave, because Dave used to race, and he's a lot younger than I am, is, are you okay doing this? Because, I'm not young, and maybe you want to be in the car. And he said, hell no, I wouldn't do that. So we got that out of the way early. But if the mechanic doesn't respect the driver, it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's... You see that up there. You see conflict sometimes between the team and the driver, and I think if you have that kind of conflict, you shouldn't be doing it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and that's another thing that you touch on. I like so much. And when we talked to Jason Schmidt built stuff, we talked to him last year or 2 years ago about Pikes Peak Hill Climb, and the standout from there was it's very competitive. The races, and especially the build up to it. On race day, it's one big giant family that's up there. Like there's a lot of camaraderie, and you see that in the pits down below with everything that's going on. Everybody talking with each other. I mean, it's still obviously a competition that you want to win, but yeah, everybody's got the same goal, and that's to finish, just make it.
Yeah, we tell all the rookies the goal year one, just get to the top.
Right.
Can be ugly, just get up there. And every year, about 15% of the field, for whatever reason, doesn't make it to the top. Either they have mechanicals or they wreck during practice week. And we joke about it, but it's called practice, not wrecking. And I mean, and I feel badly for people, because if you've traveled long distances or you've been working on your car. You shipped it over from Europe, and day one you stuff it at engineers. You're done.
Yeah.
There's no getting it fixed.
Right. One of our friends to the show, Don Wickstrom, the fastest passenger. He ran as a rookie for three seasons.
3 years. And he's a great guy, by the way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And he's a good driver. But we were all teasing Don, saying, you may be the longest rookie ever to be on Pikes Peak. And you have to, as a rookie, you have to run successfully in each of the sections and do all that. And Don just didn't know where he was, overdrove the car. I mean, a combination of things.
I think he just didn't have a fast enough car.
Yeah, wrong.
That seems to be the problem. When he went into the LMP car, isn't that when he finally finished?
Yeah, he had a nuclear fission car at that point. No, Don, there was never a lack of horsepower.
Oh, well.
Randy Popes, went off in the same place that Don did, and Randy's a pro driver and didn't know where he was. If you watch his in-car, he's waving to everybody as he goes through the picnic ground. That was a bad idea, because within about 30 seconds later, he went 220 yards over the pond, and he's really lucky he didn't hurt himself.
Right.
But he stuck the landing. And there's one less Nissan in the world because of that.
Right.
I did a little press release the following day that indicated that NASA was planning a re-entry vehicle dressed as a Nissan GTR. And in order to keep it top secret, they look like a Nissan GTR and have been re-entered in Pikes Peak, because it was quite a flight.
For sure. That's an amazing video, actually.
Yeah.
Just wow. Any favorite fun moments? Not nothing crazy. But yeah, I mean, you ran it 7 times. You've been up there part of it. For longer.
Obviously, I mean, the first year winning was huge, and then the absolute surprise podium finish with Andrew.
That was a surprise.
Yeah, that none of us. If we had been in Vegas, we would have made $1 million on that bet. I mean, that would have been right.
Yeah,
I mean, there was nobody in our class who would have put money on us. And including us, I don't think we would have bought us. So it just shows that it's just about getting it done, and that's why we say it's about you against the hill. It's there are a lot of other guys up there, but you just don't know.
Sure.
And they can have a mechanical, they can make a mistake, they can overdrive their car. It's easy to overdrive on Pikes Peak because you're going uphill, time's precious, and the tendency I think we all have is to brake a little later, be a little more aggressive on the gas, et cetera, et cetera. You want to be smooth, and smooth is fast, and you can waste a lot of time sliding cars around if you're wrong.
Yeah. I'll put you on the spot here real quick. Have you heard of like the Peyton Manning Award? Is not Peyton Manning. What am I talking about? The Walter Payton Award for football, where it's gentlemen of distinction. Like they're good for the community and for people, raising awareness. And they get voted as far as like we think you're the stand-up person this year.
That's very kind of you. I have a passion for the race, and this is my last year as being chairman of the board. We have term limits on the board. We're in a really good spot financially. We've got a great staff. Melissa Eichhoff, our new CEO, is really good, and the staff is great. And they're really doing a super job of growing this race. So I'm excited, and if I can find the right car, I want to do one more year. My wife is not happy because she says, you've quit 5 times now and everybody thinks you're a liar, to which I say everybody knows I'm a liar. But I'd like to do one more year, but it would be more of the just do it for fun because at my age, the only sponsor I'm going to have is Depends. So
we should work on that.
Wouldn't it be fun?
Blue Chew.
Wouldn't it be fun to do a livery on the car with all that?
I'm in. I got $20 in my wallet.
Yeah, I think we could have some fun with the livery.
What would you want to run? What's the right car?
That red car sitting right behind you would be awfully nice.
Okay.
Wow.
That would be the perfect gentleman's car to take up Pikes Peak because it's got a lot of power. It's obviously got great suspension. I think it'd have to be set up.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of data, I think, for setting that thing up.
Yeah,
right?
I think there's a lot of data. I tend to like really soft suspension for the upper part. Everybody's got to make that choice, by the way. The bottom part's very smooth like a traditional racetrack. The middle sections, how fast can you get to the corner, rotate the car, and get to the next corner? The upper section's very bumpy, very technical, and very fast. You've got 3 left-hand blind corners that all kind of look alike but aren't, and they all require a little different approach. And you're carrying really a lot of speed. So, the racing part of you says, put your foot in it. And the survival part goes, what the hell are you doing? And so it's balancing those 2 voices as you go up the hill.
Right.
But that would be a great car.
Yeah.
That'd be a great car.
It is available.
Yeah. Just gonna say.
Yeah.
You'd have to put all of our furniture in it because Linda would make sure that's where I live.
I think we got a shop out back that
can we power a microwave and let me use the shower here?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's awesome. Well, cool. Well, I'm excited to see you run it. Yeah, for sure. And you know what, Fred, you're a guy that can handle that car. I trust that. I know that.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not. Andrew.
Yeah, I think you got it.
I know. I think you can.
Yeah.
We were sliding a bit. We corded those tires. And it's funny when you've lost all that, your kind of grip goes away. Kind of funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
A couple times.
Right.
A couple times I'm sure Andrew is going, maybe this wasn't a good idea.
That's right. Because Andrew, you went for a ride with Fred this year.
Yeah, usually once a year I get to go up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you could give us just your impressions of the drive.
It's just incredibly impressive. I mean, obviously Fred has an enormous amount of experience on the mountain, so there's a level of comfort there, but I can only imagine what it's like to push all the way up, 12.5 miles, 156 corners. It's just insane. And to experience that is absolutely crazy. There's nothing like it. I've been in race cars before, but that's definitely something very special. Yep.
And if Fred's only doing it at 7/10, I mean, that's 12 tenths for us, right? I mean, that's a different.
Well,
that's a different league.
it's maybe 8 tenths, but when you're driving, you feel that you're well within yourself, and that's what you're trying to do.
Sure.
When you're racing, you are getting yourself outside of a comfort zone a little bit, particularly in critical areas. You have to make a commitment, and of course, you're fighting it because you don't want to be uptight. That you lose all the input. So it's, the question is, how can you be comfortable getting outside your comfort zone and doing that? I mean, that's the yin and yang mentally that goes on.
For sure. Yeah.
And some people do it very, very well.
Right.
David Donner, he does it very, very well.
Donner does, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Zort does it well. Donahue does it well. You really respect those people and their ability. Reese Millen does it incredibly well. So,
yeah.
Do you think there's just something missing in their brains?
well, it depends on who you ask. They would say no. Others might say yes.
Well, I don't think so. I think it's probably a very trained thing, but there's also, I feel like there's a level of excitement that different people need. Some people get excited watching the sunrise. Some people need to go for a walk.
Well, I think you have to like speed and be comfortable with speed. I ski raced, I bike raced. I've always liked speed, and speed for speed's sake doesn't make me nervous or unhappy if you have control. And people often talk about how fast do you go. I can tell you going 170 or 180 in a race car that's well prepared is a lot less scary than going down the road at 60 in a Vega with bad tires. So it's kind of that a little bit. And again, if you do a lot of it, you get comfortable with it. One of the problems all of us have is we're never in a car enough, and we're not driving enough in a competitive situation to really have our skills. And I tell everybody, if you didn't play tennis, why would you expect to go on a tennis court and play competitive tennis? And everybody go, yeah, I couldn't. Well, we all drive cars, so we therefore all think we're damn good drivers. And the reality is we're not. And it becomes very apparent when they're on the track or in a competitive situation like that. And that's why, again, when we're looking at the selection, we want to have people that have shown over a period of time that they are not going to put themselves in a situation they shouldn't.
Sure.
Yeah, I think last time you were on, you talked a little bit about the red mist and people like just getting overly aggressive on the racetrack. And with me, I've done a couple of sticker rallies, and I don't want to do any of them anymore because that's what I start to see. Is you feel like you got to keep up with the guy in front of you in the car, and then you see somebody do a pass over double yellow, and then you think that's okay, and it's just
that absolutely happens in racing. The first couple laps are people just showing they're idiots, and we're doing 8-hour endurance races with a Mustang if it ever runs again, and they have 80 and 90 car fields, so they're busy,
right?
And the first 3 laps they'll wreck 12 cars. Well, why? It's an 8-hour race. There's nothing you're going to do in the first 2 or 3 laps that matters.
Yeah.
So I see that. And to your point on rallies, a friend of mine has a rally in Napa, and the first year it was modern cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, and it was exactly that. There isn't a Ferrari owner in the world who can be fifth in line. And I don't care how good a driver they are, they're by God going to get to the front. And they're going to do the double yellow passes or pass 2 or 3 cars at a time. And the problem with that is if somebody else is coming, the first car may have a way to get in. The second and third car are hung out there to dry. And so now he is 72 and older because the guys now who are coming are enthusiasts who have older cars, have been around a long time, and recognize that if you get to the luncheon stop first, you don't get anything. There's no award for being the first to lunch.
Right.
And it changed the whole complexion of the rally. And that's why I don't like, personally, drives with mixed cars that aren't controlled, because guys are just stupid. They've just gotten their new whatever it is. And by God, they're going to show everybody that they're going to go from 5th to 2nd.
Right.
And it's just no. The answer is no. I don't want to be out there.
Well, on that bombshell.
Yeah. Guys, thanks for doing this.
Thanks
for coming out.
Yeah,
this is my favorite month of the year.
Oh, for sure.
It just seems to go by, and we're lucky we get to take credit for everything that people like Andrew and you do. And, we get to ride on all the glory.
Yeah.
I just think this is the best. And it's really fun to be so closely associated with it. And I think that's probably a lot your fault. So thank you.
Well, I would say this, you guys as a dealership, and I really mean this because, people that don't know, I've got a lot of Porsches. I mean, it's a sickness. But you guys do such a great job of supporting all of your customers and whatever they're doing. And I say that for the club for tours. I mean, you guys are great about that. You're great about the guys that want to Concord do that. Everybody here is an enthusiast, and that's very unusual. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference in the comfort level that I think customers have in dealing at the dealership. They know they're going to deal with honest, sincere, knowledgeable people, and that's special. So thank you for what you guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it.
All right. So
Wednesday night, come Wednesday night.
Yeah. Look at this guy doing all of our announcements.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This upcoming Wednesday is our
June
Pikes Peak
19th.
Hill Climb Drivers Meet.
Yep. Come at 5. Everyone's saying 5:30.
Well, that's when
it's
it
going to be
starts.
too busy by 5:30.
Yeah, people
Come
will
at
be
5.
milling around.
Come and steal things out of the race cars.
They don't have locks,
right.
So I think
A
whatever
lot of
you
them
want.
leave the keys in them.
I think so. Yeah.
Use Motec, still bring good money.
Yeah, I would believe it. They don't have serial numbers either.
Yeah.
They're universal.
No, we've got an amazing roster of drivers that are going to be here. Jeff Swart.
I know you're running late, but let's talk about a couple of special cars you guys are sponsoring.
Yeah.
Lonnie Unser is in an incredible car named Lucy.
Right.
And Lucy was run by Ostier a couple years ago and set a record and blindingly fast. Now they've tuned it down because it's still going to be probably twice the horsepower of anything she's driven.
Sure.
But a beautifully prepared car by BBI with Mobile One sponsorship. Lonnie Unser's driving it. It's a generational story. She's a super person. Very, very good driver. And so that'll be great.
We actually get to sit down with her and Jeff on Tuesday. So on the 18th, we should get to sit down with those guys.
And then you have the car that you guys are also preparing with Jason. That's super. I don't know what you call it. It's a Heinz 57
right.
cup car with a giant turbo motor.
Right.
And David Donahue driving it.
Yep.
David's had a lot of experience on the hill. Very good driver. Has won internationally. So that thing's going to be blindingly fast. And then you've got other things. So some really cool drivers, cool cars. People ought to come, meet the drivers, talk to them. And you guys put on a great presentation.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward
Come
to it.
have some food truck.
That's right. Have some food truck. It'll be people and cars and race cars for days.
Yeah.
And
then
the facilities are open, right? As
and
far
you
as
can buy a car.
Yeah. I mean, we're still, we're here.
Oh, that's just crazy talk.
It is. Yeah, I know. And then tomorrow we've got Zuffengruppe up in Boulder.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see some of you guys up there. And then the race, Fan Fest on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. Zuffengruppe tomorrow, and Monster Garage is having an event tomorrow here in town. Yes. Wednesday is the drivers meet. Friday is Fan Fest downtown Colorado Springs.
Yep.
Sunday is race day.
I think we should take Friday off the show. We should just say we're going to Fan Fest and then turn it off and then go to the Fan Fest. What do you think? We'll talk about it.
Do whatever you want.
All right. Sounds good. Well, anyway, thank you guys. So for Fred Veach, Andrew Olson, Justin, and me, thanks for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great night.
I'm just going to turn it off. I don't have any music. So this is the end.